Delta says its new jet could cut fuel use by 40%. Sounds like the future of flight, until you realize it still burns fuel. Electric at takeoff, jet engines at cruise. Part dream, part denial. It's progress wrapped in contradiction. Because in a world racing to decarbonize, this isn't revolution. It's a reminder that even the future runs on fossil fire. So, is this innovation, or just an illusion painted green at 30,000 feet? To understand why Delta's move matters, we need to zoom out, far beyond the hangar. Aviation today accounts for roughly 2.5% of global CO2 emissions, but the real problem isn't what we're emitting now, it's what's coming. Every year, millions of new passengers join the skies, especially across Asia and Africa. By 2040, we won't just have more planes, we'll have twice as many flights. And unlike cars or trains, airplanes face a brutal trade-off: energy versus weight. You can make a car heavier with batteries and it still rolls forwards. But in the air, every extra kilogram fights gravity. Delta knows this. Every airline knows this. That's why Delta and MAEVE aren't waiting for the miracle, the mythical ultralight, ultra-dense battery that might one day replace jet fuel. Instead, they're taking a middle road, part electric, part traditional, and all about efficiency. MAEVE calls this the M100, a next-generation hybrid electric regional jet. It's not built for transatlantic flights. It's built for the 400 to 500-mile range, short hops between nearby cities, London to Paris, Tokyo to Osaka, New York to Washington. Here's how it works. During takeoff, when thrust demand is highest, electric motors help push the plane into the sky, drawing energy from onboard batteries. Once cruising altitude is reached, the jet engines take over. Efficient, familiar, proven. On paper, it looks like the future of flight. In reality, it's a clever pause button, a way to buy time while the world waits for something better. To understand both the brilliance and the limitation of Delta's hybrid dream, you have to start with physics. Aviation is ruled by one brutal law: energy density, how much energy you can store in a given weight. Jet fuel is, by that measure, a miracle. It holds about 43 megajoules per kilogram. Now compare that to a modern lithium-ion battery, roughly 1 megajoule per kilogram. That's a 40 to 1 disadvantage. If you tried to power a passenger jet entirely on batteries, it wouldn't fly. It wouldn't even taxi. The batteries alone would outweigh the aircraft itself. So MAEVE didn't just try to replace fuel, they tried to reduce it. Their hybrid system blends two power sources, gas turbines and electric motors. During takeoff, both work together, the electric motors providing a quick burst of torque while the turbines spin at lower output, saving fuel. Once in the air, the electric side powers down, and the jet flies like any other regional aircraft. And the results are mind-blowing. Up to 40% less fuel on short routes, not because the plane is clean, but because it's clever. It uses electricity as a booster, not a backbone. But physics never lets you win cheaply. Batteries, unlike fuel, don't get lighter as you use them. The weight you take off with is the weight you land with, and that means every watt stored adds kilograms of drag and lift requirement, which in turn burns more fuel. Hybrid flight, then, isn't freedom from fossil fuel. It's a tug of war between physics and ambition. And right now, physics is still winning. Then comes the next hurdle. Not the physics, but the bureaucracy. Because in aviation, innovation doesn't fly until paperwork does. The FAA doesn't certify dreams, it certifies hardware. Every bolt, every circuit, every altered voltage demands years of testing, endless documentation, and billions in compliance costs. Hybrid jets don't fit neatly into existing categories. They're neither fully electric nor purely conventional. They exist in a grey zone regulators were never trained to handle. For Delta and MAEVE, that means convincing bureaucrats and engineers alike that the new hybrid creature is not just safe, but repeatable, serviceable, and reliable under all conditions. It's a monumental challenge. A single line of code in the propulsion system can trigger another year of tests. But even if they conquer that mountain, another looms ahead: infrastructure. Airports aren't built for hybrid electric charging. The megawatt-scale chargers required to keep multiple aircraft flying daily don't exist in most terminals. The electrical grid at major hubs like JFK or Heathrow would buckle under that demand. Each airport would need massive overhauls, costing hundreds of millions just to host a handful of aircraft. And all for a technology that could evolve or become obsolete before it even matures. Then there's the silent killer: weight. Batteries don't scale the way jet fuel does. Every additional kilogram of energy storage cancels out the very efficiency it promises. More weight means more lift. More lift demands more thrust, and more thrust burns more fuel. That's the paradox of hybrid flight. The cleaner you make it, the heavier and dirtier it becomes in practice. Even airlines quietly admit, hybrid systems only make sense for short regional hops, not transcontinental journeys. But the marketing machine doesn't care, because hybrid sells hope, even when physics hasn't signed off. Here's what most of those headlines don't mention. That hybrid electric system, the star of the show, only works for a few minutes per flight. Electric assist matters most during takeoff and climb, when thrust demand spikes. But once a plane levels out at a cruising altitude, that advantage disappears, the batteries stop helping, and the jet engines take over completely. For a 1-hour regional flight, the electric component might be active for 10 or 15 minutes, then go silent. The rest of the journey runs entirely on fuel. It's like putting a solar panel on a gas car, useful but hardly transformative. This is the paradox at the heart of hybrid aviation. It sounds revolutionary, but it's built to be incremental, a way to trim emissions without rethinking the entire system. And yet, that doesn't make it meaningless, because the alternative, waiting decades for pure electric or hydrogen flight, isn't realistic. Battery energy density is improving, yes, but slowly. Even optimistic projections suggest we might double current performance by 2035. That's still nowhere near the power-to-weight ratio jet fuel offers today. So in that sense, Delta's hybrid jet isn't a destination. It's a bridge, a delicate one, connecting what's possible now to what's coming next. But bridges aren't built to last forever. They exist to be crossed. So, what does this really mean for the future of aviation? It means the road to zero-emission flight will be longer and bumpier than we hoped. Hybrid systems like MAEVEs may serve as bridges, easing the transition while battery chemistry, hydrogen propulsion, and synthetic fuels catch up. But they're not the destination, they're scaffolding. The future of aviation depends on breakthroughs that rewrite energy itself: solid-state batteries, hydrogen turbines, carbon-neutral fuels. Each is still years, maybe decades away from scaling safely. Until then, hybrids are the compromise we can live with. For passengers, the difference will be invisible. The jet will look familiar, sound softer, maybe even smell cleaner. But inside the engines, the story remains the same: combustion, chemistry, carbon. And yet symbolism matters. Each step towards efficiency signals demand for cleaner skies. Each dollar invested in hybrid research builds the infrastructure electric flight will one day need. So maybe this isn't greenwashing. Maybe it's green scaffolding. Imperfect, but necessary. Delta isn't alone in chasing hybrids. United, American, and even smaller players like Iceland Air have all announced investments in hybrid or electric startups. They know the clock is ticking, and not just from environmentalists. Governments across Europe and North America are tightening emissions rules. Incentives are flowing towards clean tech, and soon, penalties might follow for airlines that lag behind. That's why even a 10% reduction in fuel use matters, not just for cost savings, but for compliance, branding, and public perception. Investors see it too. Billions of dollars are now chasing climate tech aviation. From Silicon Valley to sovereign wealth funds, the money is moving. Not because hybrids are perfect, but because they're real. And real today beats perfect someday. That's what makes this moment so strange. Everyone agrees that full decarbonization is the goal, but no one agrees on how we get there. Hydrogen, batteries, synthetic fuels, they all have potential, and all have problems. So airlines like Delta are placing hybrid bets, not because they're sure it'll work forever, but because doing nothing isn't an option. In that sense, the M100 isn't the final answer. It's the hedge against the unknown, a proof of concept that says, we're trying. And in an industry known for risk aversion and regulatory gridlock, even that kind of move feels revolutionary. In the end, Delta's hybrid jet isn't changing travel in the way headlines suggest. It's not ending fuel dependency, it's refining it. But maybe that's the point. Maybe progress doesn't always come with a clean break, but with small, stubborn steps that inch us forward, even when they're wrapped in contradiction. Because when you board a plane in the coming decade, you might think you're flying electric, but beneath your feet, kerosene still burns, turbines still spin, and the old physics of flight still rules the skies. So ask yourself, will passengers even notice the difference? Or will the illusion of clean flight be enough until the revolution finally takes off? And if you're into videos that dig beneath the headlines of clean tech, hit like and subscribe. We have more stories from the skies.